like, I don't want to have kids, and my level of commitment is I'm going to snip.
Really?
Yes.
Hey, this is Sonia. Welcome to another episode of Men Explain. Thanks so much for your love and support so far. Now today we are talking about honesty and how much should you tell your partner about your past? Ooh, that's a loaded question. And here to answer it openly and honestly is John. Tell us about yourself, John.
Yes. Hi guys. My name is John, as Sonia introduced. I'm going to be really honest here, and I'm going to plug all my socials so that y'all give us engagement. Okay. So I work at a Smart Local. I'm a creative. I do photos. I do videos. But in my downtime, I actually do a podcast as well, right, on Overthink SG. We're Overthink SG everywhere. Please come and follow us.
Well, why is it overthink? Do you overthink a lot or why?
When we started the channel's name was my co-host's name, Alastair Pang.
Right.
And then after a while, audience was like, hey, what Alastair Pang? Where's John? Right? And then we were like, oh crap, we didn't think so far. We tried to find a common thing that we do.
Yeah.
Right? Do we eat a lot? Do we spend a lot of money? Not really also. But then we realized we overthink quite a fair bit. And as a result, we called it Overthink, and we never looked back since.
You know, I think it's a very relatable name because naturally all of us overthink, right? And if you've tuned into this podcast long enough, you would actually know that sometimes we record for like 1.5 hours, but we have to cut it down because obviously we're oversharing as well.
It's true, yeah.
I'm so glad that you're joining us today because this is a topic that may not be the easiest to tackle. I mean, when it comes to honesty, when it comes to openness, when it comes to telling your partner about your past, sometimes it can be a bit of a daunting thing, right? Do you agree with that?
It definitely is. I think daunting is the right word for it because as humans, we're always worried about judgment, and especially judgment from someone that is that we're especially vulnerable with. Right, so I can understand why certain things you toe the line between secrecy and being open with your partner because you're worried about that judgment that comes from someone that you ideally want to share a huge part of your life with. Yeah. So that's where it gets really tough. But at the same time, I think that there are ways to navigate that. Yeah,
right.
definitely.
Yeah, and that's why your relationship works. I mean, if you are in a relationship, are you?
I am in a relationship, and hopefully, all my theories can apply into action.
So here's a question for you: like when you just start dating someone,
yes,
do you have a rule like after how many dates then I start sharing about my exes, or do you guys bring the exes up immediately, or how does that work for you?
For me, my policy is very simple in terms of bringing up history and bringing up the number of exes and bringing up how your past relationships were like, right? Mine is not determined by how many dates. It's more of like before we get together.
Right.
Yeah.
But so before you make it official, you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because I think the stakes are way higher if you discuss and find out all these things that could potentially be deal breakers after the fact that you've gotten together. As compared to if before you get together, you all discuss this and then say that like, hey, we're going to be proceeding into the next step of things because good feelings, right?
Yeah.
Here's what we have and here's what you have. Let's see whether any of this is non-negotiable.
You would say that sharing details and like being an open book builds intimacy in a relationship? Do you think that plays a part?
It definitely does. It definitely does.
Okay.
The word that we're looking for is trust. Because if you're able to be open with your partner about most things, it gives your partner the opportunity to be open about at least those things as well.
The one thing that I wanted to just ask you, what's the difference between keeping secrets and downplaying situations to avoid conflict or a fight?
This is where I have to say the lines are definitely a bit
Right.
because like it is a mixture of wanting to be open with your partner but also wanting to be kind to your partner most of the time, right? Because like there are some things you know for a fact that if you overshare in the wrong context,
It's gonna trigger your
it
partner.
is, right?
Yeah.
And it might hurt them, right? And you don't
Yes.
want to do that. So that's where people have that struggle. Personally, I've encountered that myself.
Have you?
Right,
Okay,
where-
tell us more.
I mean,
I'm listening.
through omission, right?
Yeah,
through
yeah.
omission, you try to salvage a situation.
Yes.
Like I've had an incident with one of my partners before, where basically for their birthday, I was like, you know what, let me get them a nice present. But at the same time, while I was searching on the store, then I thought, hey, this is a really thoughtful gift for some of my other friends.
Okay.
So I bought one for my partner and a bunch of other things for my other friends as well. I omitted the part with my with my partner, that
Okay.
I also bought things for my friends.
Okay.
Because I don't want that to diminish the thought that I put into her gift. I'm kind of towing the line between secrecy
Right.
and omitting, downplaying things.
Yes. I have something to add on to that.
Yes.
I think my situation that I encountered was a little bit more intense. Like it
Right.
resulted in a bit more conflicts than
Yes.
I had hoped for.
Yeah.
It's no secret to our audience that I do like to go out and party, and I've been through that, like in my younger days, and sometimes once in a while we still kind of do that, right? Even
Yeah.
though it ends at 10:30 now. So
Yeah.
I tend to try and downplay like how much fun I'm having.
To your partner.
Yes, and this is confirm overshare right now at this point in time. But
Overshare, overthink, let's
yeah,
go.
overshare, overthink. Oh my god, collaboration. Okay. But sometimes when you're having a lot of fun, like with your friends, or
Yes.
like when your partner's not there and stuff, you kind of don't want your partner to feel like bad about it or left out, or you don't want your partner to feel like, oh, she's out there messing around or doing
Right,
something
right.
bad, right?
Yes.
So as a result, I tend to just be like, oh yeah, it was a chill night, but then we're like, but it was like, oh, it was chill, like we're just having
Yeah.
dinner and drinks, and we're like, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I'm guilty of,
Right.
and I'm like openly admitting it right now.
Okay, I'm just curious, right?
Yeah.
Is this approach that you have, right, coming from your own worry about how your partner will react?
Exactly, because I'm worried about a reaction.
Yes.
That's why I downplay it. Right? And we've addressed this in therapy a couple of
yes.
times as well.
Yeah.
And it's like just a vicious cycle, right? Because we're constantly like, okay, why are you downplaying it? Or because, every time historically when you say like, oh yeah, I'm having so much fun, I'm such a fun night,
Yeah.
then my partner might get mad or angry. Then it becomes like a vicious cycle. Then
Right.
I decide that, oh, you know what, next time I'll just like won't say that I'm having so much
Yeah.
fun, But I mean, truth to be told, at least it was talked about and, it was addressed as well.
Yeah.
And as a result, I think both of us have things to reflect on and look at.
Right.
Why is he giving me that certain reaction, and why do I feel the need to continue doing that? So we have to break that cycle somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I think that it is a very toxic parenting kind
Yes,
of concern
yes,
if
yeah.
if that is the situation.
Yeah.
And you always want to move away from that because especially if you're talking about romantic partner, right?
Yeah.
Potentially this romantic partner is going to transform into the next status of life partner.
Mm-hmm,
And this is not something that you can live with you can live with it for maybe 5-10 years. What about 20-30 years? Right? And that's where it gets really difficult. And I
Yeah.
think in order to overcome that, you need to find out the motivations for different behaviors.
Yeah.
Like it could be on our part, right? It could be like, for example, we've always had experiences with partners that get mad when we have too much fun.
Yeah.
Or it could be on their part, right? Every time we go out and have fun, they seem to react poorly.
Yeah.
So this has to be something that has to be discussed, like whether it's a reassurance thing,
Yeah.
whether it's a jealousy thing, or whether it's they just have no one else and it's a codependence thing.
Right.
And these things will eventually boil down to individual facts that you will have to discuss whether they are deal breakers or not.
And have you found yourself in a situation or relationship
Yeah.
when you were dating someone that you started to compromise a lot on yourself and you realized that, hey, I'm changing so much, but I'm changing for somebody, not myself?
Definitely. And
Yeah.
I think this was something that was very symptomatic of my earlier
Previous
relationships
okay.
when I was younger. Because I think right now, just to set the context straight, would you say that you are romantic? A hopeless romantic, a bleeding heart?
I don't think I'm a hopeless romantic.
Right.
There are obviously ideals that each and every one of us has of
Yes.
what the perfect relationship is,
Yeah.
and that to me has changed drastically over the years.
No more slow-mo hair
Obviously,
flip.
I think the hair flip to me never really quite existed. Neither have I ever experienced it. But
Right.
I've been lucky with a fair share of previous guys that I've dated
Yes.
who have romantic gestures. I've also had experience with guys who are not romantic at all,
Yeah.
but in their mind they think that they are. This ties down to something very cliche, which is like the love languages, right?
Yeah.
And I know that it's been said to death and studied to death, and people always talk about the love languages and all, and it's like blah, like roll your eyes, right? But actually, when you look at it from just a generic view,
Yes.
what I find is a love language could be different from what my partner finds, intimate and finds romantic, right? And I think actually it's quite key to know about that. For example, I
Yeah.
mean, if your love language is, I don't know, gifting or time spent. for
Mine is
example.
touch and quality
Touch
time.
and quality time. Okay, actually
yourself?
same for me.
Same.
Yeah. So touch and quality time are important to me. So let's say if we're not the same though, like let's say if my love language is gifting, for example.
Yes.
Or acts of service,
Yes.
for example. And to me, when I'm doing acts of service towards you or giving you a gift, that to me is showing you love. But
Yes.
you're like, what is this? Like, this is
Yeah.
not this is not showing love to me.
It's true.
To me, I just want time spent. That's it. And that's where like it sort of stalls a little, or there are disagreements, and
It's true.
people feel like, oh, you're not showing me enough love, but
Yeah.
I am in my own way.
But at the same time, I think in that kind of context, when it comes to
Yeah.
love languages, right, telling your partner how you want to be loved is also important.
Yes,
Right?
that which ties back to communication. See, we're slowly
Exactly.
figuring it out.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like your partner cannot read your mind.
Yeah.
Right, and like as much as we would love to have that, right? We'll
That would be so ideal, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
can you imagine you get together with someone and then suddenly we all gain mind reading powers?
but
We would love that.
Selective mind reading cannot. Not all the time.
Select-
not all the
ah.
time, okay? Like, that's
Vibe
important.
reading, vibe reading also.
Exactly.
In Singapore, we live in a more conservative society. It almost feels like it's not right for us to air our demands and our needs, to tell people that we care about what we want. In fact, we find it easier sometimes to tell our friends who we're not romantically involved with what we want and what we're lacking, which is very strange because ideally you want to tell the person that you're closest to what you want because they are the ones that are supposed to be there to try to provide what you need.
Yeah.
Being able to tell them what you want and tell them what you need, not the I want to eat sushi,
Yeah.
not that level, but the more like I appreciate your gifts, but I prefer if you cuddle me more.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? This is something that is very difficult to come out from the mouth of Singaporeans.
Because I feel like you grew up in a environment, I don't know if it's an
Yeah.
Asian thing, but
I think it's an Asian
right?
thing.
Like, because I'm very close to my family, and some of my friends tell me, I don't know how you talk about everything to your
Yeah.
parents, or like how do
Yeah.
you guys like hug each other when you leave? A lot of people don't have that.
I personally believe that like if your parents allow you to be yourself, you will grow up allowing yourself to be yourself. Because if you grew up in an environment where you're not allowed to be yourself, you will grow up thinking that you're not allowed to be yourself.
Yeah, or you have to have some sort of mask
Exactly.
or some sort of
Yeah.
facade.
You have to be
yeah.
a certain way, if not, people don't like you or
Yeah.
don't love you. Which is
Yeah.
a very inner child, never go away kind of thing.
Yeah.
We've really boiled it down like, why are we not comfortable telling our partners about certain things?
Hmm.
It's because we're worried that if we tell them, they don't love us anymore.
Oh man, that's
Right?
that runs deep, you guys.
Yeah, it
Like-
does. It's a very visceral thing, and like we can't change that unless we acknowledge that. We acknowledge the why we're not telling our partners. Like for example, we talk about the context of partying, right?
Yeah.
Why? Why aren't we telling our partners? Could it be because we're worried that they're jealous,
Yeah.
or is it because we've had someone snap at us about
Right.
it before, or is it we feel guilty because we know that we're overstepping certain boundaries?
Yeah.
These are things that we have to acknowledge and then eventually tell our partner.
Yeah.
Not only for us to allow ourselves to be ourselves, but to reassure them that this, no matter what we do, this relationship is still in the hierarchy of things higher than whatever we're doing.
Yeah, so essentially it's all
Yeah.
about reassuring your partner in
Yeah.
that sense, right? Because I think a lot of us get caught up in the whole like downplaying your
Yeah.
situation kind of thing, and we've all been guilty of doing that before.
Yeah, for sure.
But when it comes down to something as simple as a reassuring sentence or word or text or phone call, in hindsight you're like, oh, actually a simple thing could have
Yeah.
stopped everything from happening. But when you're in the situation, it's very hard for you to see.
It's true. Like for example, my co-host Alastair, right? One of
Yeah.
the strategy that he does when he goes out. So for only those like more hang out until late, never talk to girlfriend nights.
Okay.
He will change the wallpaper to the two of them.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
And that is enough because they discussed it, and then she said like, for those, let's do that. Yes, and then
Okay.
for her, because he's actually much more overthinky than her.
Okay.
Right? She will do the same.
Ah, okay,
So
that's interesting.
that will put that is sort of like their bridge, right? Whereby we won't be too intrusive, so much so that you cannot have your fun. Can you
Right.
imagine if, let's say, as a partner, you say that like, I want to go and party, but every 15 minutes I want you to text me.
Right, that's gonna be tough.
That's tough, right?
Because
Especially
after
for
2 hours, maybe you forget where your phone is. Already.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where's my
right.
phone?
Right. You become less and
Where
less
my
lucid,
friends?
right? And then
Yeah,
suddenly
yeah,
15 minutes,
exactly.
suddenly you cannot count time,
And
right?
suddenly it becomes 4 a.m. I mean, seriously.
Exactly, right? So
happens.
like sometimes it's like the little things where you
Yeah.
kind of meet in the middle,
Yeah.
and just having these things is enough to put your partner's mind at ease.
So I'm going to read out a list of things from a relationship coach, okay? You tell me what are some things that you would share and what you wouldn't
Okay.
with your partner.
Yep.
Okay, so you would share about your physical and mental health issues.
Of course.
You okay? Okay.
Yeah.
How about your financial situation?
I think financial situation, we have to segment that a little
Okay,
bit.
yes.
So in terms of
Like
how
being
much
in
I
debt
earn.
is different from like how much I earn every month.
Correct.
Yes.
So
yeah.
how much I earn, I think, is reserved for spouse level.
Okay, like going to get married level.
That one you
lah,
must sign a
okay.
different subscription
yes,
plan.
Yes,
In terms of, are you in debt?
yeah.
Right? Are you currently unemployed?
Right.
Right? Were you fired?
Oh my gosh, I never asked these things,
Yeah,
to
but-
anyone I was dating.
But
ever.
before you get together, I think these are things important to find out. Like, is there any major financial situation that your part of. I think this is even more relevant as we grow a little bit older.
I realized I really would just dive in hard first last time. Actually, no, this is a very good point because I never asked them about their financial status.
It could be something serious, like for example, I mean by serious, I don't want to give it a negative connotation. It could be they are supporting their family member who has a chronic disease.
Okay.
And that is a financial situation.
Yeah.
That is that takes away certain things off the table for leisure. That's where these kind of communications, ideally, you want to go into it before you go into the relationship.
That's not first date conversation.
Oh,
though.
definitely
That's
not
for
first
sure.
date.
I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my
first
God,
date
that's
is
a
more
bit
like what
too
you want to
serious.
eat.
Yeah. Your family issues and upbringing, would you immediately share that, with your partner, or do you hold back certain things?
First date, probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah,
of
but
course.
unless in a joke context, like I have a tiger mom, for example. But I will
yeah.
guess for legitimate problems that will haunt you, right? Probably not first date.
Yeah,
but probably reserved for the once again
more deep conversations that might come after.
The before get together stage.
Okay. How about your grief or other traumatic life events in your past relationships or in your childhood that might still affect you till this day? Which kind of like also goes into the realm of, a bit about your ex-relationships or maybe things that still, bother you from time to time. I mean, this is a very surface kind of example.
It is.
But I actually dated a guy with the exact same name and surname as my current boyfriend.
Oh, that's kind of wild. Is the name
Damn
easy
wild.
to get, like John Lim?
No.
Because, I mean...
There could be like 10 John
Exactly,
names.
right?
So I withheld that information for quite a few dates, actually. I
Right.
didn't want to scare him off. I didn't want him to think like, oh, I'm dating you because you have the same name and surname as my ex, who happened to be like my longest ex ever.
Right.
And you will never guess this. They are related.
No way. We need a reality TV show on this. Like,
Yeah, and I really hope that my ex is not watching this right now, but I'm pretty
Oh
sure
my
he knows that
gosh.
I'm dating his distant relative, but I did not know. I had no
so
idea.
there is a wild chance that if Chinese New Year one of these days...
I know. So we haven't gotten to... I know. That was the first thing that I thought about, okay? But because they are distantly related, I think there was some like family thing.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what happened there, but my ex's family doesn't really get together with the extended family. So that's why I never
Right.
met my current boyfriend in any social situations
Right.
in the past. If
Yeah.
not, I might have actually met my current boyfriend.
Oh my goodness.
Which would be really weird.
That would have been really awkward.
So
yeah.
the thing is, I withheld this information for quite a few dates because we were like having so much fun, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
yeah,
right? And he was the one that found out first, actually. He realized that I was friends with his cousin, another girl,
Yes.
on Facebook. And he was like, hey, how do you know this girl? So then I went, oh, like, this girl, she's actually like my ex's sister. And then he went silent for the
No
longest time.
way.
He went silent because I didn't know that they were related at the
Yeah.
time. He went silent. He was like, you're joking.
That's wild.
Yeah, he was like, that means like you dated my cousin. And I was
That's
like,
wild. That's wild.
it was the craziest thing.
That's insane. Coming back to what we were asking earlier
Yeah.
about first date, right? I think it's fine bringing these kind of things up
Yeah.
about your past relationships.
Yeah.
But maybe a deep dive into it to find out a little bit more about what happened, the circumstances, right? Might not be first date relationship.
Yeah, of course.
Right? It might be first date relationship, like, oh no, when was the last time you were in a
Or when
relationship?
did you break up? When was
Yeah,
your previous partner? Okay.
I think that's information that's fine for a first date.
What if your date asks you or your partner asks you, I'm not sure if you've gotten into this conversation
Yeah.
yet, how many people you've had sex with?
I go into this conversation very early.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, because I think this is a good indicator of their comfort level. So I think
Okay.
this comfort level is important because in any relationship, especially for me, I can't speak for everyone else, but for
Yeah.
me, a sexual relationship is very important for me. I would not date someone who wants to abstain till marriage, for example.
Oh, wow. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Have you ever been in that situation?
No, I
where-
have not.
Okay.
Because I've always been quite upfront about this.
Yeah.
And asking about that question about how many sexual partners they've had
Yeah.
is a very good indicator about how open they are about sex.
Because it may not be the same as the amount of people they've dated before.
Yes,
You know what I
yes.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And I would
you would
say-
want to know
yeah.
both. You would want to know both.
Yeah.
Okay, ideally, right?
Yeah. And as a result, you would know how comfortable they are talking about sex, which is very important to me, talking about sex.
Yeah. I feel like for some of us, especially for girls and for women, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure whether sometimes we feel a bit hesitant in saying too much. I mean,
Is it because of a stigma? or-
yeah, like
or-
in a way, because, as a guy, right? I'm sure like sometimes, I'm not sure whether this is a stereotype as well,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure in your bro setting, you're like, yeah, I did this girl, or like, well, I don't know how you guys talk. That's really not accurate.
100% guys, yeah, bro,
Yeah,
we did it.
this girl, man, she was bomb.
If men are allowed to sleep around,
Yeah.
likewise should women, because it's an equal world, right?
Yeah.
And if your potential partner is talking like that about how, oh no, they're not a virgin anymore, but what about myself? I'm not a virgin too, but it doesn't matter because I'm a dude.
Double standard lah,
That's
basically.
a great
Total
filter.
double
You know,
standard.
these kind of people just stay friends.
Yeah, just bye. Maybe not even friends.
Invite
I
them to
don't
play
know.
mahjong, take their money. That's it. You know, you don't need to hold their hand.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah,
I
but
get
you know, that's the serendipitous part about it. But like, as a result, you know, this is why bringing up these kind of things in a very early stage is very good to suss out these kind of people.
Right.
Because you talk about these kind of bro dudes who slut shame girls, right?
Yeah.
On the flip side, there are women who come in with these kind of narratives as well.
Yeah, I don't
Whereby
disagree.
they're like, why you talk about sex? Or like, why didn't you save till marriage? Slut shaming can go both ways. It's just that it's a lot more loud and prevalent when it comes to being applied to women.
Yeah, there's a little bit more of a stigma when it comes to that.
Yeah, and nobody likes being slut shamed
course
or,
not,
or
yeah.
shamed for anything they've done, because not only is that something that is in the past you can't change,
Yeah.
ideally if I don't judge you for your past, you shouldn't judge me for mine. Because of bringing it up very early in the conversation, in the relationship, it's a great filter.
Yeah.
You just
yeah.
be like, this so and so, it's not for me. Clearly there are some aspects of you that I can't accept. Goodbye.
Yeah, okay. We have a question from a viewer, which is hypothetical, right? Okay. Would you be open to your partner if you were ever involved with a sex worker or if you were a sugar baby?
This one I'll answer based on my
Does he
myself
have sugar
first.
baby vibes? I don't know.
I mean,
No need to answer, it's okay.
my take on it is very simple. I don't judge you about your past, and I hope that you won't judge me about mine.
Yeah.
But in order to find out whether you would, I would be upfront about mine.
Yeah.
So if I had engaged a situation whereby I paid for sex,
Yeah.
I would be very open with it,
Yeah.
because probably the person that paid for sex is a very different person from the person that's in front of you right now. And whether I've been a sugar baby before, which is once again, right, getting paid for sex, but this time it's I'm the one getting paid, right?
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
Still looking?
Yeah,
No, I'm kidding.
right. I mean, my rate card be inserted.
Yeah.
I'm okay with being open with that. And like I said, that would be a very good filter for me
Yeah.
about a potential partner, because if I do engage in those activities, I want my partner to be open-minded enough to accept that I've done those things before doesn't mean that I am now
Still
forever
the same
that.
person. Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to say that it's wrong that you cannot accept someone
Yeah.
who has a certain past. Which
Yeah.
it's perfectly fine. In fact, if that is a deal breaker for you, then so be it. You
Yeah.
guys will not work out. But why I'm even bringing it up is because you need to be able to bring this up to determine whether this partner is good for you in a very not romantic sense, in a
Yeah.
very step back and view things logically sense. I mean, there's this very famous quote from BoJack Horseman: if you look at the world through rose-tinted glasses,
Yeah.
all the red flags just look like flags.
Yeah, that's true. That's very
Right?
true. Yeah.
And in order to have these kind of conversations, you need to take off your rose-tinted glasses and talk to them and discuss within yourself whether someone who was a sugar baby is acceptable for you.
On that note, though, this just popped to my mind. I mean, it's another difficult conversation to
Yeah.
have, and I'm not sure if you've had this conversation with
Yeah.
any of your partners before. STD testing.
Have
Have you ever spoken about this with your partners?
Interestingly enough, with my current partner,
Yeah.
because I mentioned this is the first partner that I have
Okay.
where we, before get together, we actually had a long, extensive talk about
Oh.
who we were and what we want and
I
how we
see.
expect and all that and how we expect this
Ah.
relationship to go and everything.
Okay.
And what could potentially be deal breakers and what could potentially be things to work towards, because we don't have a concrete answer yet.
Right.
And that has been immensely helpful because that set the baseline for our future disagreements. So if you talk about STI testing,
Yeah.
right? Usually it's very touchy because it almost feels like in Singaporean context, if we discuss this with someone, if I ask you whether you're tested, it almost feels accusatory.
Yeah, like offensive almost. Like you don't
Right.
know whether to bring it up.
Are
or
you
how
trying to
bring it
say
up.
that I'm dirty
Yeah.
when that's the wrong stigma?
Yes, yes.
Let's say you talk about STI. So
Yeah.
a common one that people like to ask about is chlamydia, for example.
Yeah.
It's an easy one
Yeah.
to talk about. It should be at the same level as asking whether you're vaccinated.
Yeah. Funny enough, like everyone checks their vaccination status now.
Yeah, but it should be at that same level. It's like, do you go
exactly.
for a vaccine? No. Oh, that's fine. Have you tested for chlamydia? No, I've never actually gone for it. It should be at that level because sexual health is very much physical health.
It is 100%.
Yeah.
And you know, I think for a lot of my girlfriends and I as well, sometimes we talk about these things, right? Because you know, it's just unfortunate that at times girls tend to show a little bit more symptoms, more so than men. And you know, depending on what your relationship status is, if you're single and you know you're free to do what you want, then you should also take care of your body in that way, right?
Absolutely.
So safe to say you've fully had this conversation.
Yes,
with
we
your
have.
partner
In fact,
already.
we've had talks about funny incidents of close
Close
brushes
call.
and stuff like that
Okay,
because
okay.
my current partner has had a situation whereby one of her friends accused her of sleeping with her boyfriend,
Okay.
and as a result, infecting her boyfriend with chlamydia, and that's why
Oh
she
my
has chlamydia.
God.
And then my partner is like, what?
This is brand new information
Yeah,
to me.
aren't we both fine?
Yeah, yeah,
you know
yeah,
what
yeah.
I mean? Not only does that become easier for us to discuss potential sexual health issues,
Yeah.
because there are plethora, right? It's not just STIs.
Of course not. There's
There
so
are
many.
all kinds, yeah. Like if you talk about for women especially for women who are sexually active, even the simple talk about HPV, talking about when your period is around, you want to miss your fertility because you don't want to have kids, right? Those are things that you can only talk about if you open the gates to talk about sexual health, and one of the path into that is to talk about STIs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's great to know that you have such an open and honest
Yeah, I do.
relationship
In
and
fact, I have the
conversation.
Flow app on my
Yeah.
my phone because
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to be a parent yet.
Yeah, but eventually you want to be. Or
No, actually, no. Actually, ironically
Not yet.
enough, I told myself in 5 years I'm gonna go for a vasectomy because I do not want to have kids. Yeah.
wait, this is another episode altogether.
It
In
is.
5
It is.
years?
And that is something
Really?
that I brought up to my partner before we got together. I was like, I don't
Okay.
want to have kids, and my level of commitment is I'm going to snip.
Really?
Yes. You know, can you imagine if you reach a point in your life where you have kids, for example, and you're married, you're happily married with your spouse, and you don't want to have kids anymore, but you don't dare to bring up to your partner
Right.
that you want to go for a vasectomy.
Yeah.
Or likewise the female equivalent
Yeah.
with fallopian tubes with tight
Yeah.
tubes or something like that. How miserable must that be?
Yeah.
Right?
So back to communication again.
It is,
from
yeah.
the get-go.
Yeah,
right?
and also allowing
Yeah.
yourself to be yourself.
Yeah.
And the
yeah.
only way to allow yourself to be yourself with your partner is if you're honest with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we've learned so much as well today, not just about you as a person, but in our discussion, you know, about being open and honest in a relationship and sharing your past secrets and stories about your, you know, exes and all that. So
Yeah.
is it safe to conclude that there still has to be a small level of privacy between, you know, two people who
Yes.
are in a relationship?
Yes.
But of course, with everything else, like the bigger picture things, you know, the stuff that is very important for the relationship to move forward, you have to share those things.
Like I mentioned earlier, so you must remember that you
Yeah.
are an individual. You're not just an amalgamation of two people.
Yeah.
What made the two of you all get together in the first place? Right? Is the individual self that you were. Right? And this individual self that you were ought to grow with the relationship, not stagnate because of the relationship. And that's where that level of privacy and personal individualism becomes highly important. So it's like a balancing act between openness with your partner and privacy.
Yeah.
Now, these two things can be intertwined,
Yeah.
can overlap. Like you can be open with your need for privacy with your partner and say that like actually this thing I'm not comfortable to share with you. This is where, because if you set the base with your partner right in terms of the honesty and the openness, you would enable your partner to allow you to be private about certain things without feeling that I am keeping secrets from you. It's just that I am uncomfortable. And your partner can only have this understanding about you if you have been honest and upfront with them about everything else.
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly and tied it back down to the essentials of a relationship. Have you ever thought about being like a counselor or therapist? I mean, like I get that vibe a little bit.
I don't know, but like, sometimes I don't know if this is like, Asian parents like to praise you for certain things. Huh? Sometimes when my dad watch my podcast,
Yeah,
then
what
he's
does he
like,
say?
Hey, maybe you should go and try and learn to be a counselor. But then I think, really, man, got so good, man. I'm just like, just a dude with a lot of opinions
with
on
thoughts,
the internet.
With a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, and like it's just me, and I'm just
Yeah.
unorthodox. So I don't
Yeah.
know if I mean maybe you
It
know.
may not apply to everyone.
Yeah.
I think it worked perfectly for our audience here today. So thank you so much for being open about it.
Thank you so much
And
for
for
having me.
sharing as well. Once again, an update with him in 5 years. We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of Men Explain. It's been a pleasure, John. We'll chat again very soon. If you like what you saw, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button.
And of course, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave it in the comments below.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.